This is Cole Silver, and welcome to another edition of the Rain Dancing Expert Audio Series. Marketing tactics cannot be effective if they're performed in a vacuum, and there's so many options to choose from. One must use a variety of forms that reinforces and complements each other. Today's guest has been helping law firms figure out these issues for a long time, and he's going to do the same for us. Burkey Belzer has won hundreds of awards in every major field of graphic design, publication, illustration, trademark, and collateral. An accomplished writer and public speaker, Burkey has written for the Washington Post, the LA Times, the American Lawyer, National Law Journal, and many other industry magazines. He is routinely extremely highly rated as a speaker on topics from branding to information design before professional audiences, such as the Marketing Partner Forum and Law Leaders Forum, as well as the ABA, the ALA, and the Legal Marketing Association. He is the president and creative director of Greenfield Belzer's communication strategy and creative development advertising firm. Formed to meet the marketing communication needs of law and professional service firms, Greenfield Belzer offers a full range of services from strategic communications planning to creative implementation. Welcome, Burkey. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Cole.
You know, I've read many articles that you've written about how great marketers must use a variety of methods so that they reinforce each other.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many to choose from out there, whether it's advertising, print, web. I mean, there's just so many. How do you start by figuring out which tactics do complement each other?
Well, that's a great question. It's really critical that one look at the strategy and the goals of the firm in the first place, what we're trying to achieve, how wide our market is. Do we have a local or a regional or a national or even an international market? It's going to determine the kind of tactics that one employs today. However, an integrated campaign is absolutely critical in order to achieve any success in any marketing campaign. Obviously, the Internet has grown to be, and quickly grown to be, the most important marketing tool that one has in terms of the website. If we're trying to achieve a greater reach across a wide variety of a wider region, then it becomes important to work with advertising, because advertising has the fastest reach. But like a Jaguar, it costs a lot of money, and which is one reason why firms will often limit their exposure to advertising. I can certainly say that public relations coupled with marketing tactics is critical, that one really cannot work without the other, and a strong public relations effort that matches a strong marketing effort is very important. In terms of tactics, however, on the marketing front, we've mentioned the website. Advertising is a place to start. We've always been a big fan of thought leadership for professional service firms. It's a way to it's a way to demonstrate really your expertise. So thought leadership programs that can then be the subject of advertisements, the source of information on a website, and their printed collateral material that supports it as well becomes a great hook for a completely integrated campaign. So if you were looking to leverage every dollar in the smartest way, thought leadership would be an excellent way to begin.
Could you explain that just a bit?
Sure.
For many of us who don't know what that means.
Sure, of course. If it's a tactic that's used effectively by the Big Four in particular, and you find that the big accounting firms that come up behind the Big Four up to the Big Ten use this as well. What it means is I mention accounting firms because they are so much more likely to take an industry approach than law firms. But let's say that we have a strong healthcare practice in a law firm, and we want to get the word out about our healthcare practice. So we might sponsor a piece of research about trends in healthcare, either legal trends or business trends in healthcare, put on a program. That could be a law firm with an accounting firm that could bundle the program that way. that lets people know what our expertise is all about. If you're looking at the great consulting firms, McKinsey, et cetera, those firms are taking on larger issues. They may be taking on issues like immigration, globalization. Those issues are of importance to all of their clients, which tend to be the Global 100 and then all the way down to the Fortune 1000. But it's through their thought leadership that they get their foot in the door, because business people more than anything want to know how to achieve their goals. They know the why, and they frequently know the what, but they don't know the how.
So you sort of, by using this thought leadership campaigns, you are creating a network around you in a certain vertical?
You can do it in a vertical. You can do it horizontally across the board. Fulbright and Jaworski's done a good job, I think, in their litigation research that they then give to companies, all sizes and types of companies, that lets people know that Fulbright has deep expertise in litigation. We didn't do it. I love the campaign, but that's exactly the kind of campaign that I'm talking about. It's got a print collateral component, it's got an advertised component, and it shows up on the website as well.
Now, you've spoken or mentioned that the Internet is the most important sort of medium today for marketing. Mm-hmm. And I think I read in one of your articles about the new 3D web and Web 2.0 and bluecasting, and it's moving very fast. How does that impact traditional forms of advertising, whether it be in trade magazines, newspapers, airports, whatever?
Oh, that's a big question. I don't think it substitutes for them. I'm a big believer in, for example, airport advertising. Advertise where business people are. I think it's a smart thing to do, particularly in your hometown. But the Internet has taken on a lot of responsibility simply because we know you do the same thing, I do the same thing. We hear about somebody, we go directly to their website. Unfortunately, the websites come up far short of where they need to be as a marketing tool. For us, as we've tried to define what a website ought to do, we've come up with 5 components, and this is only a partial answer to your question, Cole, so we can come back to this. First of all, it needs to be a reference tool. That is, it needs to explain, be a directory of the firm's people and its expertise. And so that's critical in the for a successful site. Obviously, that we need to tell people what we do and make it easy to get that information. At the same time, we also know that a website needs to be a branding tool, and if law firms fail, they fail mostly in this particular category, in that the key messages are not front and center on the home page. A recent survey that we did of the top 25 accounting firms, 25 consulting firms, we did real estate firms, internet leaders, etc., showed that the home page is really coming back for people to understand the value of the home page in branding the organization, because people won't dig for those messages. They're going to go straight to whatever they're looking for once they understand what's going on the home page. We also learned through a research study done out of London that people make a judgment about the quality of your home page in a 20th of a second, which is remarkable. And they carry that impression with them throughout their view of the entire site. So as a website needs to be a reference tool, a branding tool. It also wants to be a recruiting tool, since the future of any firm are those individuals who come in the door and make up the future of the firm. So a recruiting tool is an issue that I believe most law firms understand and are working harder than they are with the balance of their site to create an impression for students. And in addition to that, smart firms are paying close attention to laterals and targeting a portion of their site to laterals as well. A website, fourthly, needs to be a relationship tool. It wants to be able to create relationships by pushing media to clients, pushing thought leadership to clients. It wants to be a node in the entire relationship where people can find information, ask questions, and some firms are coming to understand that as well, and that's where we get to blogs, podcasts, et cetera, and some of the newer technologies that create those open relationships. Finally, I think a website needs to be a bridge to the future. And by a bridge to the future, I mean it needs the technological capability, and firms are getting closer and closer to this, but the technological capability to manage data. Really the holy grail is that we have one source of all of our information, biographies, practice descriptions, other information, and that motherlode really wants to be centered and distributed across many different vehicles from print, et cetera, but it really wants to hang off of the website because the website is the most critical component.
So I would suspect that when you want to create a site, you can't really just leave it to the graphic designers. It's got to be implemented fully with the marketing and the client strategy people.
Absolutely. Worst mistake possible. And even greater mistake is to leave it to the IT people. Everybody's got their own version of what they think a website ought to be. It's a little bit like the blind man and the elephant, where one person touches the trunk and believes that's the value and another one the legs. But really stepping back and understanding all the component pieces and the goals of a website is going to lead to an appropriate web strategy. Short of that, it's just make it pretty. One of the biggest failures, I believe, of the rapid redesign of websites, and they seem to be being redesigned every 18 months, is that while sites are being redesigned, they're not being realigned. In other words, the strategy hasn't changed. Someone simply decided they didn't like that picture, it wasn't pretty, or they don't like red, and you name it. But most of those issues are utterly irrelevant to the key goal of a website and the key purpose of a website, which is to create relationships and to explain who you are and what you do.
You've also written that there's a shift from tell them to show them, and that there is more of an emotional form of communication going on. How do you do that in a website?
Well, that's a great question. It's the biggest change, I believe, and the result of the survey that we had done on top consulting and as well as law firm sites was that information design and data visualization trump words. Or words alone, and that we're trying to invert the ratio of words to imagery on all of the materials that we produce for every single one of our clients. It's so tempting to tell all, but what people require, because they are so busy, is that you need to show all. You need to grab their attention through images, charts, graphs, maps, however you visualize the data. And the information that you're trying to communicate, you need to do it first that way, and then only secondarily with words. And that's a challenge for lawyers whose stock in trade are words. So to get them to understand it, to say less and show more, has been a constant challenge for 25 years.
Yeah, brevity has never been one of our strong points.
But you know that it's we find increasingly as lawyers come to, as they're more effective as salespeople, they really do understand this. They're beginning to understand. Give me pictures, give me images, give me a look and feel, give me personality, or give my firm personality. I can tell them later what I need to tell them. But I'm trying to now, my first goal is to break down the door.
So I suspect, Burkey, when you see a website for a lawyer and he's, standing or sitting in front of a book, a library books of law books and a scale of justice to the right, it sort of like just annoys you to no end, right?
It absolutely does. But you know what it is? The fundamental failure there is that we are using iconography that doesn't support a message. In other words, I know that I've gone to a lawyer's website, so you don't need to tell me that you're a lawyer. You need to tell me what kind of lawyer you are, where your strengths are, where your experience can make a difference for my company. Those are the things that I want to know. I know I'm looking for a lawyer. So it's the same as when you get to a life sciences site, and the life sciences site is decorated, and I use that word advisedly, is decorated by test tubes or decorated by pills. And it's an icon of the industry, but it does not enhance my understanding of what we bring to the table as a law firm.
So when if you're trying to elicit emotional responses besides graphics and things like that, do you suggest audio? Do you suggest the new YouTube, a little video shot of the attorneys? What do you like today?
The fastest moving piece of action that's going on the internet today is the shift from a static web page to another way of thinking. Let me just interrupt myself and say that I'm moving from pages to portals. I'm moving from static to DVD. So what you'll find if you go to, pick IKEA, and they want to show you how to put together a bookcase that you bought, they're going to show you a video rather than having the illustrated pages. We're finding the same thing. What's the best way to get to know somebody right away? A short clip about having them talk about some topic. Now, what's the failure of law firms that are rapidly adopting videos for their recruiting sites in particular, although they really need to spread it throughout the website? And the biggest failure is that the videos are, 7 minutes long? It brings tears to your eyes to try to listen to something like that for 7 minutes. We're a 30-second, 15-second culture. So if I can create a connection in 30 seconds, and I believe you can, then you really have an opportunity to engage the reader and make them want to pick up the phone. So yes, let's use video, more and more video. Let's use video creatively and not simply the stock picture of the firm's senior associate telling what a great life it is to work at Pick That Firm.
Let's talk just real briefly about your sort of tagline or your slogan.
Mm-hmm.
What's the analysis? I mean, we as lawyers are in danger of being commoditized. There's just so many of us, and competition is fierce. And I can find an IP litigator, and 3 or 4 of them on the same block in major
right.
cities. How do you go about really truly differentiating yourselves in terms of your slogan?
It's if you're talking about ours, which is make your firm unique, is that what you're talking about, or just a tagline for firms in general?
Both.
Okay. Well,
I mean, because you do want. I mean, I guess we all want our tagline to be unique, right?
Well, we do. We want it to mean something. We want it to say something. In our case, our goal is to make a firm unique, and we come out right out and say it. How do you go about that? How do you take 100, 200, 700, 30,000 lawyers all flying in different directions and bring them under the banner of a single slogan or a single brand? Maybe I should step back and say that a brand is not a tagline. A brand is not a logo. A brand is an entire personality. And the tagline, and I don't personally require taglines for a brand effort to be successful. But if we focus on taglines for just a second, I will certainly say that a tagline should not be what we call a first-generation tagline. That is me, 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 me. We call those gorillograms. So it's just chest thumping. We're really looking. So it says we're the greatest global firm. We're the greatest IP firm. Whatever it is, it's some version of Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest. What we really need to do is create what we call a second-generation tagline that involves the reader itself. So a great example of this is Microsoft's Where Do You Want to Go Today? It implies that Microsoft can help you get there, but it's really focused on the client, on the reader. So that's a 30-second tutorial on taglines, but the tagline is one component of an overall personality, and the personality of a brand really begins with messages and imagery. It's the presentation. I sometimes use the analogy that business is like a giant cocktail party, and the people that you talk to and that you enjoy are really have two characteristics. First of all, they're personally attractive. You know, they're people that you would like, that you're drawn to in one way. And secondly, and this is counterintuitive to the way that I believe that most of us think about our marketing materials, is that they ask questions about you. They're more interested in you than it appears that they are in themselves. And so that demonstration of interest in you is the same kind of interest that firms need to show for their clients. And how do you demonstrate that interest? As I talked about earlier, through thought leadership, through demonstrating that we are willing to share our knowledge and information with clients. If we hold it back, we're going to be the only people that will possess it. Really, a great secret that the Chinese have. They say, clean out your attic or clean out your living room, put it in the attic in order to let more furniture in, new furniture in. It's a way of saying, continue to learn, share what you know, and you'll develop a wider and wider circle of relationships. So brand is about personality, what you look like, and what you say, and how you demonstrate your interest in others, not just what you have to say about yourself.
And when you go into a firm and you help them figure this all out, do you also look at their current client base and how to drive deeper there and increase the share of wallet, or is it really all business origination?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. The very, very first place we start is, who are your existing clients? Where do they come from? Where did they come from, both geographically and through referral sources? Where have they taken you geographically around? In what categories do they use you? Why do they not use you in a particular area now? Or why do they use you in one area now but not an area that's proximate or an area where you have strengths that are demonstrable? One of the very first parts of that information gathering process are what some call client loyalty studies, but we're interviewing clients to find out why they hire them in the first place and what they like about the firm, what challenges they have with the firm, what the firm could do better. And specifically that very direct question, why don't you use, this firm has a great, for example, litigation group. You're only using them for a small aspect of this particular litigation, and you're not using them for IP litigation when they've had big success with that. What gives? So feeding that information into the hopper is what really helps us develop an ultimate brand, for example, and it certainly helps us clarify messages that we need to go to market with. So we're building a personality that's visual. We're creating key messages that we want the market to hear. That's obviously verbal, and those messages are built around the source of where does the work come from. So that can help increase share of wallet. Share of wallet, the increase in share of wallet, as any biz dev person will tell you, is going to be about increasing the depth of the relationship, inquiring from the client, how are we doing? It's like the mayor of New York said, how am I doing? All the time we've got to know that. How can I do better? Asking those questions. Frequently lawyers, I should say, are too frightened of what they'll hear to ask those questions. But that's a mistake, because in fact, most clients love you. And if they've got a little niggling complaint, it's probably really easy to cure. And if they've got a big, big complaint, it's better to know about it now and at least to do something positive for, in order to make a correction or course correction towards that. That's really how I believe that share of wallet will be increased.
You could even reactivate old clients if you did that.
You absolutely could. Why come you haven't called us? What did we do? Where did we go wrong? How did we lose you? You'll find, I think I read recently in a Harvard Business Review, and I should be able to quote chapter and verse, but cannot, would be to say that the single most important reason that firms lose clients is they take their eye off the ball. They lose focus on that client. They turn their attention to the next kill. In a hunting and gathering society, the hunters are out, they're going to the next kill, and they're leaving that client in the shop unattended. So, that loss of focus is something we all need to bring ourselves back to it all the time. We at Greenfield Belzer, we do too. Everybody does.
In fact, Burkey, could you also make the argument that one should not even figure out what their strategy and branding and everything else is until you do that?
Oh,
survey your existing client base and find out.
Absolutely. It's impossible to do it without that. You have you're out of touch with the marketplace. You're only developing the brand from the inside out, and it needs to be developed from the outside in. So it's an absolutely critical component to it. Now, you need to understand what's going on within the firm too, because all of the individuals within the firm have a slightly different view of what that animal is, and those views need to be consolidated for a brand to take root. Or individuals will say, well, that's not us. But not only can the individuals within the firm say, they cannot say that's not us, nor can the client on the outside say, well, that's not them. It has to see, that's exactly who they are. That's who I know.
Gotcha. Now, I have to ask you this question because you've been doing this a long time and you've been advising global firms for many, many years. What are the cutting-edge, best-in-class firms really doing out there? There's a lot of change going on in the marketplace.
Yep.
Some firms are really just not catching on, and others are just taking the ball. What are you seeing out there that's best-in-class?
Oh, that's a really great question, and you're absolutely right. If I can just echo what you said, is that, and I don't know why some firms have the light bulb's gone on, they picked it up, and they're charging down the road. Other firms are just beginning to wake up and wipe the sleep out of their eyes. I think that in terms of the best practices that I'm seeing now, there are more structural, fundamental practices than you might expect me to say. In other words, I'm creating integrated campaigns where I'm driving sales leads through direct mail advertising and seminars back to my website, and then pushing those leads out to individual lawyers from folks who have demonstrated an interest in something that the firm has to say. That's probably the most sophisticated activity that's going on. It involves the creation of and the maintenance of customer relationship databases. It involves database use on the website itself. It involves understanding how to create materials offline that are integrated with online materials. So the best answer I can give is that it's not the flashy thing that you might expect. For example, a very flashy seminar is a great thing to do. That goes back to that thought leadership that I'm talking about. But if you're looking for sophistication, cutting edge, it's in the boiler room.
Competitive analysis and analytics, huh?
Competitive analysis and analytics, that's exactly right. And then acting on it. I can't tell you how many people have done the analysis and then don't know what to do with it. Or the analysis is so complex, it's overwhelming. As a result, nothing is done with it. So coordinating a team where BizDev actually works with marketing, and there's a stunner. When that happens, then you've really got a very successful. You're starting to get a machine that's working.
So really, I think what you're saying is that law firms that are doing it right are looking more and more like traditional businesses.
Yeah, they are. That's exactly right. And they may not change their lobby to appear that way, and it may not be so evident to everybody on the outside, but that is, in fact, exactly what's going on.
This has been great, really, really great. Can you tell my listeners how they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can go to our website at www.gbltd.com or www.greenfieldbelzer.com. You can give us a call in our Washington office at 202-775-0333 and ask for me or ask for Amy Beeler. I'm at extension 233 and she's at extension 297. We'll be glad to help.
Burkey, thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Cole.
This has been another edition of the Rain Dancing Expert audio series brought to you by Cole Silver. Until next time,